going to turn it over to Chad to see if there are questions from folks here that we can share now.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. The first one's from William Holstein, who asks, what happens if thousands of these workers get deported under Trump's second term?
A lot of news organizations have been calling me in recent months asking this very question. And it's going to be interesting because studies show that anywhere from 20 to 50% of the meatpacking workforce is undocumented. I think it's a little bit difficult to confirm the exact numbers, but it's, it is a significant part of the labor force in the meatpacking industry. And if they are deported, I mean, I think it's going to be there's going to be real tension between companies and this administration, because it's hard to get people to do that work, and especially at the wages that are being offered. And companies don't want to raise those wages. So what's going to happen? Are we going to pay more for meat? Which is, that was one of the big, what was said to be the big issue in this election was the cost of basic food, meat and eggs. And so are we going to see a huge jump in the price of meat? Are we going to see a decrease in production? Are we going to see companies paying more so that they can get workers to take on this kind of work? And I think those are real questions that that people should be considering when they think about deporting the people who are upholding our food system, many of whom have been here for most of their lives, if not all.
All right, we have another question from Jean. Are these undocumented workers organizing across states and corporations in the meatpacking industry?
I'm not aware of coordinated organizing across states, at least in the meatpacking industry. That's not to say it's not occurring with undocumented workers. But I would, that's a very good question. I would be curious to know. I think it's the hardest, obviously, for undocumented workers to organize, because often you're dealing with groups of people who speak many different languages, who do not speak English, who are often illiterate. And so organizing just takes on a new dimension when you're figuring out how to coordinate people who speak many different languages and who are not literate.
Well, we just had another question pop in from Larry. After your reporting on workers at Tyson, have you heard stories from workers for other companies?
I mean, I've heard stories from other companies. In Arkansas, there's several different meatpacking companies here, because when I started this reporting, I was interviewing workers at many different companies in the state. And so some of the stories, one of the issues with industry is that it's a consolidated industry. There's very few players. And so Tyson is the biggest, but you could also say it sets the pace, it sets the standard, and many companies are similar, in the way that they run things. And so part of the issue is that we need to break up the consolidated power of the meatpacking industry.
And another question from William. If not Spanish speaking, where are they all from? Where are the others from?
I mean, in Arkansas, we have the largest population in the world outside of the Marshall Islands. Marshallese, they work at Tyson in their majority. We have a community of refugees from Myanmar, the Karen, and then I've seen workers from Vietnam, Thailand. I mean, it's the Congo. There really is a large a variety of refugees and refugee and immigrant workers.
And Jean asked, is there a Spanish language translation in the works?
The rights are, we are working on, my agent is working on selling the rights, and I do hope that this podcast that I'm working on in Spanish will help that move forward. So that, you know, my greatest hope is that workers will be able to read it in Spanish.
That's sort of related to Larry's question. You mentioned you were working on a Spanish speaking podcast. Will that podcast be available in English too? And does it have a title?
It doesn't have a title yet. We're writing the script right now. I've finished the reporting, and I should know more in the next month or two. And I don't know, we'll see if, I mean, I would love to do a partnership to have it in English, but it's kind of up in the air at the moment, given given finishing up the Spanish one, but I hope so.
That's wrapped up the questions we have in chat right now. If anyone has any other questions, please do jot them down in the chat and we'll get to them.
And maybe if I can throw one in there while folks are thinking of any final questions. I think, Alice, one of the interesting tension points I've been thinking about heading into the Trump administration is that Tyson is so dependent on undocumented labor, and they are so politically influential. Could they potentially actually temper some of these deportation efforts? Could Tyson almost be the good guy in a weird way in that storyline?
I think that's a great question, and I would love to see more reporting on it, because I cannot imagine that that Tyson or other companies are going to silently watch their labor force be deported. They know the financial cost of that.
Right.
And so it's going to be a point of tension, and I'll be really curious to see how it plays out with the incoming Trump administration.
Chat is silent at the moment. Oh, we have one. Thank you from Larry. Thank you, Alice, for your very important work on this issue. Other than the podcast, is there another topic you will be reporting on?
I am starting a new project on child labor, which is related to the meatpacking industry. I'm working on an article for the New York Review of Books. And so that is, you know, in the initial stages.
Yeah. And I'm sure other states, including the one I'm in Texas, are looking very closely at the Arkansas child labor law, determining if it's something that they can replicate here, where we also have meatpacking plants as well. Well, Alice, thank you so much, for writing the book and taking the time to talk to us today. And thank you so much to OPC for hosting this event. I strongly encourage, like OPC has in the comments, to buy the book. It is beautifully and heartbreakingly written, and it's a really easy read. I believe my mom's watching and she saw me read it all in basically a day. So
Oh, thank you, Yaffa, and thanks to OPC. Thank you for being a wonderful editor and for doing this. I really appreciate it.